Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Kieran Singer here at Undead Storyteller. I hope you're ready for another scary video. Creepy ghost stories where the police were involved are what is on the menu for today. There are two stories in this video, and they really are quite creepy, let me say. Fair warning as well that story number one in particular might be triggering for some. So if you think that might be the case for you, once you get tuned in, feel free to find the timestamps down in the description so you can skip past it to the next one. Speaking of the description, there are a lot of links to playlists, the link to join the channel memberships, as well as my email address where you can send me your personal stories to have them featured on the channel. So if you've experienced something creepy or unexplained, hop on down there, grab the email address, and get in touch with me. Quick reminder to everyone that membership exclusives are now available as a perk in memberships. I'm offering one membership tier to keep things as simple and stress-free as possible for myself. It is $4.99 a month, and perks include early access to all content, in-video and community feed shoutouts, special emojis and loyalty badges, and once again, most recently, exclusive members-only content, and that is where I will be featuring some of my original works, beginning with the recently released Truthbringer series, which I know I have shamelessly mentioned in the last 3 intros, but hey people, it's called marketing, so get ready to hear more about it in the future. And if you hate the sound of me droning on about something you don't give a crap about, feel free to use those timestamps in the video description to skip on ahead. Thank you for listening to today's stories. I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, make sure to hit like and subscribe for me, and as always, don't forget to tap that notification bell so you can stay up to date whenever new content gets released. Now, without further ado, let's get ready to embrace the terror and dive into these scary true ghost stories where the police were involved. One night while I was pregnant with my second child, my young son came into our room scared, asking if he could sleep with us. We obliged, but being heavily pregnant, I just couldn't get comfortable having a wriggly 2-year-old squeezed into bed next to me. I swapped out with him and went to sleep in his bed. At the time, our cluster of houses was having driveway repairs, and for a month we had to park down an empty adjacent driveway, then walk through a hedge to get to our house. It was a big, concrete area with grass at one end that led out onto a river. That said, I'm in my son's room, and I'm woken up by a blue, watery boy sitting on my chest, laughing. I felt like I was rising toward the ceiling. Then, the happy, laughing feeling went away. I was more afraid than I've ever been in my entire life. I couldn't breathe, and it felt as though my face was being pressed against a hard surface. I tried to turn my head left and right, desperately trying to take in air. This went on for at least a minute before I felt myself drop back onto the bed, and it was all over. The next day I asked our landlady if a child had ever drowned at our house. She said no, but of course I couldn't get it out of my head. It still bothered me. When I bumped into an elderly neighbor a few days later, I asked her the same question. She told me nothing had happened at my house, but then she pointed toward the drive where we had been parking our car, and told me that it had happened over there. She told me that it had happened around Christmas, and that it was a terrible tragedy. She said that the family had had their kids and grandkids over when the little boy, 17 months old, had gone missing. In a panic, everyone had checked the river and the main road, but there was no sign of him. The police arrived an hour later and asked if the little boy could have gotten into the pool area, but it had been locked, and no one thought that that was a possibility. The officer went back there and pulled back the cover to reveal the small toddler floating against the bottom of the plastic. I feel like that was what I felt when my face was being pressed against something the night that I had my experience. My head was thrashing from side to side, trying to breathe. He was blue and soaked in water. He had been laughing and giggling just before the panic set in. My experience happened 6 years ago. I can still see his face when I close my eyes. I'll never know for certain what it was he was trying to communicate to me. Because this is an ongoing client of my company with numerous legal investigations currently under review, some facts have been altered, including the name of the apartment building. In the summer of 2022, a resident was found deceased of a narcotics overdose inside the apartment where this story takes place. A year after the death, in January of 2023, a new resident moved in. I've worked all over town and have no issue with general homelessness, but this particular area does have a lot of problems with drug addiction in the homeless population. We were hired several years back due to people constantly breaking into the buildings to use, along with other types of incidents that I'm not at legal liberty to speak on. It was during this last summer, the summer of 2022, when the overdose occurred in the southern-facing third-floor apartment. It had been suspected by us, meaning security, property management, and the local police department, that the resident had been using and dealing drugs out of the apartment for some time before he passed away. I remember feeling relieved on the night that it happened that I wasn't working, but that's beside the point. I'm jumping now to February of 2023. I arrived at the property and began my regular check. As I approached the third-floor landing, on the south side stairwell, an irate woman rushed toward me. She thought that I was the police and started telling me that she saw me pull onto the property and told 911 dispatch that an officer had arrived. I informed her that I was just armed security, contracted by property management, but that I could assist depending on the situation. Well, I recently moved in, only a few weeks ago now, she said. But someone has locked themselves in my bathroom and I live alone, she stated, her voice frantic. I know my facial expression became one of annoyance because I was thinking about the several months that it had taken to repair the door frame and secure the entrance to the apartment after the previous resident. I thought of how during that time that we had to clear the apartment several times a night because people would manage to get inside. I looked at the woman. I'll take a look, I told her. Go ahead and call back emergency services and let them know you're with security. I called out to my dispatcher to inform them that I was going into the apartment and to have a cover officer start heading my way. As I entered the unit, I noticed the air inside the apartment felt heavy. It was foreboding, unwelcoming. These are small efficiency apartments. 1 bedroom, a kitchen, a small living room, and a tiny bathroom. I had been inside this specific apartment a lot in the past 6 months, so I knew the layout well and went directly to the bathroom door. The whole way I was thinking about how the bathroom door was just inside the bedroom, so if someone had gotten in, they would have had to climb in through the window, which for this place wouldn't be entirely surprising. Sure enough, the door was locked, the light off from what I could see underneath it. Just as I walked back to the landing where the new resident was still standing, waiting for me, my cover officer arrived. I started asking her why she thought that someone was inside her bathroom, and if maybe she had just accidentally locked herself out. She got frustrated and loudly stated that she wasn't crazy, that she had heard a man inside the bathroom mumbling and going through the cabinets. I glanced at the officer with a "you're probably not needed" look, when we heard an echoing groan come from the doorway of the apartment. The officer and I both rushed inside and ran to the bathroom door. I started knocking on it, hard, issuing orders that the individual exit immediately. Shortly after I issued this command, police officers came into the room. The supervisor asked what was happening, and I explained what I already knew. The police supervisor also knew the apartment well, as he had been there multiple times to take control of detained individuals from when the door was broken. As the 5 of us stood outside the bathroom, we heard the tub and the sink faucet both running. One of the cops made a joke that the subject must really want a bath, and we all chuckled. Then we heard a man sobbing. At this time, a property maintenance person arrived, and the police confirmed with the resident that they were permitted to make entry. Myself and the other security officer decided to wait in the stairwell with the resident. Almost immediately, we heard one of the cops saying, "What in the paranormal activity crap is going on?" And hearing that, I laughed. I looked at the woman and told her that no one was inside the bathroom. My cover officer mentioned to her that the last tenant had passed away inside the apartment, and the resident looked at us with concern. We learned that she hadn't been notified upon signing her lease. We let the police speak to her and the maintenance guy, and we stepped outside for a quick smoke while we waited for the police to come back out. "It's kind of messed up they didn't tell her about that before she moved in," my cover officer was saying. I agreed, but it wasn't our responsibility, and there was nothing we could do. The police came outside and started giving us the basic information we needed for our reports. The supervisor started off by saying, "I don't believe in ghosts, but that was creepy." He then went on to tell us that when they entered, the cabinet doors were open. The toilet was in the process of flushing by itself, and the sink and tub were both indeed running. "Oh, is that all?" I asked, joking. Then one of the other cops showed us a picture of the bathroom on his phone. The mirror cabinet was open, and everything in it had been knocked out into the sink and onto the counter. Both toilet paper rolls were completely rolled out. It looked like an earthquake had hit the room. I just chuckled again. "What in the paranormal activity?" I said, and they both laughed. A week later, I was working that same shift again and arrived at the building. While I was there, I found out that the apartment was already up for rent again. I hope that resident got her deposit back.